Hello, I'm John McAllister with the John McAllister Sports Report. Today, I went into the coaching area of my podcast and talked with the new head football coach at Muskingum University, Matt Nardo. Matt Nardo he was a head coach at Bluffton College. He played at Muskingum, he coached at Muskingum, and now he's, in a sense, coming back home. Had a great visit with him. He's young. He's followed the process of being an assistant at high school and moved his way up, and now he's the head coach at Muskingum University. Excited for him. Talked with him about different areas, about himself a little bit, his philosophy, about what's ahead at Muskingum, and about the program in general. So if you would sit back and really enjoy and listen to my video podcast with Matt Nardo. And one more thing, as you go along, if you would push like button, subscribe button, I don't care, like button or whatever, just get me some more followers. Thanks again, and enjoy the video podcast with Matt Nardo. As I said earlier today, my guest is Matt Nardo, who's just accepted the head football coaching position at Muskingum University. Matt, congratulations, and tell me about Muskingum University.
Hey, thank you, John. I appreciate having a chance to be on here, and it's great for me to be back home. I truly consider this place a home. This is where I started my coaching career. Going to be 21 years ago this fall, and it's been a great place, and it's a place that's grown. It's a place that's changed, but at the heart of it, it's still the same place that I fell in love with, 20 years ago. The renovations around campus, I think it's a place that has shown that it's willing to and wants to invest in the lives of its students and the lives of student athletes, and that's a big piece of why I was excited to come back.
It's really good. And real quick background on Muskingum University, you play bowling, or you play Baldwin Wallace and Capital and all those schools, right?
Yep, still in the OAC, still, in my opinion, one of the top Division III conferences in the country. I'd argue it's the best, but some of those guys may take exception out there. That's okay. We're Ohio people. We can be loyal to where we are, and it's been, for as long as I've been in coaching, it's been the staple of what has been the gold standard of Division III conferences.
And I think, too, Matt, from A to Z, you've got, obviously you've got some programs that are down, but, Ohio Northern wasn't down. I mean, they used to be competitive. Now Marietta's come up. I'm pleasantly surprised how well that program is doing right now.
Yes. Yeah, Coach Waddle did an outstanding job down there.
I've got to tell you a Muskingum joke, and then we'll get back to work. When I was young, but I was like the linebacker defensive tackle coach at Worcester, at the College of Worcester. And you notice I said Worcester, I didn't say Worcester. But anyway, and so Coach wanted to scout Ohio Northern pretty bad. Tom was coached there and all that stuff, Tom Holman. So I went down and scouted Muskingum, and the press box had the best food, the best spread of anything. So the next week, I told Coach, I said, I better be upstairs today because I can see it more up there, what they're doing. He said, yeah, go ahead. But I knew they had that spread. And that's what it was all about, man. But it's a beautiful campus. And
It is. And it's changed. I mean, with the new indoor track and indoor facility that we've built, that old press box isn't here anymore.
I've heard that.
There's been some changes, and you look across out of the bottom of the locker room, and you look across the hill and down in the valley there, and it doesn't look the same. Now you look out across the field, and you still have the beautiful small school setting that you've always had here. But I mean, that indoor facility is something to take in.
That's amazing. And my goodness, they're almost imperative that you get something like that, isn't it? For
It
all
is
sports?
anymore. I think when I got here, they said that we were the last school in the conference to have some form of an indoor track, and that's just the nature of the beast. And you're seeing it more and more at the high school level. The guys are getting facilities, and it's really
Yeah.
tough when you're, especially at the Division III level, where you're trying to sell kids on coming to play for you, and when they come on campus, they don't see what they have at their high school. So unfortunately, those facility upgrades are necessary, and I think what we've done here is I've always believed that when you build something, if you get even, you're really getting behind, because when you get even, all that means is those people that have are going to get ready to build something else.
Yeah.
So I think when they built this and what they've done over in that facility is they've moved ahead with what they did, and now anybody else is going to have to catch up with us.
Well, man, I really believe the way the college football is going now, the landscape. I believe Division III programs and Division II are going to be stockpiled pretty. I mean, it's a lot of players are going to play at that level because everybody else is going to divide themselves. Power fives, all that stuff. I think there's going to be a huge incline, a huge improvement in Division III football. And I think the other thing is, and maybe I'm wrong, you guys have Division III has a pretty good financial system. I don't know if you agree, and I think you guys, your financial, whereas the Mid-American Conference and some of those guys, it's a little tougher for those guys. Am I right or wrong?
With what we're able to do for kids, I mean, it's the same across the spectrum with Division III, but we're going to do our best to try to help provide I won't say affordable, because I think affordable is in the eye of the people that get the package. I've always told my coaches that I hate when someone looks and says, "Hey, man, you got a great financial aid package." Well, we're not the ones paying it. So what we feel is value may not be the same value to the kids that we're recruiting, but we're going to do our best to put a competitive package out there that is going to make it to where this is an opportunity. This is something that they can look to invest in with themselves. It's changed over the years. The model has changed over the years, but the heart of it, it's still a way of providing an education and providing opportunities to bring that cost down as close to need as the universities are able to do.
Right. Yeah, I think if there's a will, usually there's a way. And I mean, you can get it done. And that's with parents I'm talking about, and everybody else and stuff. What do you expect from recruits? Now we're going to jump into something else. When I bring you a recruit, what do you want to see in that recruit? Let's talk character, I guess.
And I'll be honest with you, John. I mean, that to me is probably the thing that at the Division III level is the hardest part of it, because there is at times recruiting more kids. You don't get to know them quite as well. But the biggest thing you want to look for is you want to look for the right type of guy.
What's
my
the
mom's
right
been
type
watching
of guy then, man?
someone who fits in your character. And I think that's going to change for every coach,
Right?
Every coach in every program.
Right.
But we have a culture. We have things that we believe in. And you want guys that are going to add to that culture. You want guys that are going to walk on campus day one and believe in what you're selling them. And I'm probably very blunt in how I recruit, because when kids come on visits with me, I don't hide who we are. I don't hide what our standard is, because I want people to choose us understanding what that means.
Right.
One of the best things I can say is talent's not special. And I think it's very, very easy to turn on a film and find a kid that can play. My mom can turn on a film and tell me if a quarterback can throw it or not. She's been watching enough football over the years.
Exactly.
But to know if that kid has the character, has the drive to be different, has the willpower to do what it takes to be successful, you don't know those things. And I can ramble. I'm Italian. I can talk for a long time. So if you need me to cut me off, you may have to do that, John. But, when we were out at Emporia State in Kansas, we had a graduate assistant who was recruiting Southeastern Kansas. And there was a linebacker running back that was in his area that he loved. And he brought him up to show us. And on film, I liked him. I didn't think he was necessarily a scholarship guy right off of the cuff, but I was like, he's a good one. Keep recruiting him. Right. Well, he went across the hall to my brother. Same thing. Really good football player. Is this the guy? Well, we didn't know is we didn't know yet that the kid was the president of the FCA at his high school, that he was a 3-time state powerlifting champ, that he was the leader of this, was the leader of that. All of the intangibles come into place. And once you find that stuff, it adds to who he is as a player. And the kid ended up being a 3-time captain and I believe a 2-time All-American.
Yeah.
So what you see on film and what you see in a person, it tells you truly what the ceiling is for that young man. And if you just watch the film of him and, you're going to sit there and say, okay, well, yeah, he's a good football player. You find everything else about him and you find out that he's a special human being and he's going to end up being successful in everything he does. And that's what he was for us.
Yeah. When I was really, really working hard at this, my younger years, I always wanted, when I'd evaluate kids, I would say, well, and my parents would say, what do you think? I said, well, I haven't talked to your son. Or fans would say, what do you think of Joey Smo? And I say, well, I haven't talked to him yet. And they thought that was unusual. I said, when you totally evaluate somebody, you have to talk to them. You have to watch them. And I always think, I tell kids, Matt, somebody's always watching you. Somebody's always watching you. I go to camps, I'd rather watch the kid how he reacts to different things and one-on-ones and things like that. I totally agree with you. But in your situation, it's really important, isn't it?
It is. And I think sometimes, John, you mentioned camps and you're watching everything. I don't think people realize they're being evaluated from the moment they walk on campus.
No.
I watch how they introduce themselves to the table when they register, how they speak to their parents. Are they appreciative of the fact that their mom and dad took that Saturday off to bring them?
Yeah.
Right. Everything speaks volumes of their character, not just what they do on the field. So, yeah, we're always watching all the little things, everything. I used to at the Division II level, we'd stop and we'd talk to the guidance counselors.
Yeah.
Well, find out what people say about the person because you're right. Just seeing film's easy.
Okay, man, I'd like to ask you some questions. First of all, about physical size. Division III football, everybody's concerned about physical size. Where's that fit into your equation?
Well, the old adage that you can't teach size, you can't teach speed is true. And there's a lot to be said for that. But I think part of the evaluation that I've found over the years is that the size piece of things is only part of the equation. You need to use that as an evaluation tool, just like you would evaluate a receiver on their ball skills, evaluate a receiver on their breaks, evaluate them on their size. And that tells you who they are. If you find a kid who is dynamic with the ball in their hands, he's dynamic route runner, he's dynamic this, he's dynamic that, but he's 5'7", he's still a really good football player.
Yeah.
Right. Then again, on the other hand, you find a guy that has elite size, maybe doesn't run as well, maybe doesn't catch as well. They're probably going to grade out to be about the same type of prospect.
Right.
And I think that's what you have to look at. Do we want all of our offensive linemen to be 6'5", 285 plus? Yes. Is that going to happen? Us and everybody else in the country wants those guys, right? We understand that. So you have to be willing to use it as part of the evaluation tool, not the only evaluation tool.
That's good. I think that's really, really important. What do I got my pointer in there? Okay. Let's talk about, you're new, obviously, the first year, first spring. How's the selection of the coaches going on your staff?
Well, things have been good. We were able to retain 2 of the guys that were on staff previously, which is great for the players that are currently with us. It gives them a familiar face. Right. I think that helps when they see people they know adjusting to the new ways of doing things. I think it gives them a voice that they're used to hearing, which is huge. As far as that, the rest of the staff are going to be guys that are familiar with me, that know the way that we operate. I was able to bring my offensive line coach down with me. He'll be our assistant head coach and offensive coordinator here. And I think he's one of the best coaches at the Division III level across any place. And, there becomes an instant level of, hey, this is how we do things. There's not teaching all of the coaches the way we function, the way we operate.
Right.
Learning X's and O's is easy because power hasn't changed since it was invented.
Wow.
What changes is the way that we function, the way we operate, the way we practice. And to have guys that are familiar with that helps make things easier.
It's good. Let's go. You kind of did this in your career, the process or the progression. What do you suggest? Young college wants to be a college coach. Maybe he went to a big school, maybe he went to a smaller school, maybe he's even teaching in the area, and he wants to be a college coach. What do you tell him?
Well, the number one part is be ready for a marathon. It's not a sprint. I think people want instant gratification in this profession, and it doesn't happen. It's going to take you a long time sometimes to make what you think you're actually valued at, and you find out how much a kid really wants to coach based off of the jobs they're willing to take. Because if you want to make it in this profession and you truly want to make it, you're going to take a job making $15,000 for housing. And you're also going to take a job making 26 with no benefits. And then hopefully you start getting to where you want to be financially. But if you want to do it, you better understand that coaching is a calling and it's not a profession. If you want to make money, then don't get into this. Go sell insurance. Go find some other way to make money. But understand why you're doing it, and then be willing to pursue it. Because unfortunately, there are some coaches out there that were much better coaches than me that couldn't run the marathon because of life situations, because of family, because of this, that. There's a lot of reasons why really good coaches get out of college coaching. Yeah. The best advice I would give somebody is if you are a high school kid coming out and you think it's what you want to do, get a teaching license. Yeah. Get a teaching license and be able to go back to the high school level, because unfortunately, the number one thing that's going to get us out of this profession is our families. Right. And unlike most professions, I can't pick where I live.
Right.
I can't sit there and say, honey, where do you want to be? And she says, well, I want to live within 2 hours of my family and have 200 high schools to choose from. That doesn't exist. So to be able to have that teaching license to fall back on, I think is great advice for guys coming through the system that want to get into college, but give yourself that fallback to where, hey, if my wife says, hey, I'm digging my heels and this is where I want to be, you're going to be able to stay in coaching. Just may have to be at a different level. Yeah,
for sure. I totally agree. Now, I'm a little bit older than you. From experience, you've got to marry a coach's wife. Yes. And I think the new generation, I don't know this because I'm not around them like I used to be, but I think young coaches are struggling with family right now. They want to make sure they get enough time, and that's good. And I think it's really important. But you got a job to do.
You do it
at all levels.
I think the thing that you have to understand is people talk about work-life balance, and to be honest with you, there's no such thing. Work-life balance, what that means is that you're all in where you're supposed to be. Yeah. When you're at work, be all in at work. Work the hours, work the job, work what you need to do. When you go home, put the cell phone away, do what you need to do, and be all in when you're there. Balance has nothing to do with the time spent, because if you do that, you're going to feel like you're failing at both sides of it. And I say that from experience. I've felt that when you're trying to balance things, there is no such thing. Be all in where you're supposed to be. And the one thing I'll say, John, and we praise our coaches' wives, and we should, because of all the things they allow us to do.
Right.
But the one thing I would say to young coaches is our wives knew what they were getting into. I love my wife to death. She knew she was marrying a guy that worked 80 hours a week. Like, she understood that. My 3 kids don't. They didn't pick to have a coach for a dad. Yeah. And I think we need to be cognizant of that. And as much as technology can come home with us, we need to take advantage of the technology piece, be more efficient, and get home when we need to be home, because they didn't choose this life.
I was lucky to play fast pitch softball when I was young and single. And older guys, it was pretty real. But their wives were always mad at them. But they were mad at them because instead of going home after the game, they go out and get drunk and stuff over the bar. I said, well, if you guys would go home, you wouldn't have that problem. And there's a little bit of truth to that too. And I was lucky to be a head football coach, so I could control the shots. I mean, I can, like you can do. if you feel like things are, man, a coach's meeting is just not going well, come up with an excuse to say, okay, let's go home. Let's get some fresh ideas. Good.
Let's be done.
Good
And
philosophy,
you,
Coach.
you
You
see it
got me
more and
halfway
more.
excited about listening to you. You got me excited. So much to be said. Heck, I'm fired up. And okay, let's talk about. Give me an idea of what spring practice is like. We hear it obviously. Big schools are getting away from spring games, and I think it's a great idea. But in some ways, but tell me about a spring practice at Muskingum.
Well, they've adjusted the rules some in the last couple of years with Division III, so that helps. We're able to wear helmets. We get a couple days of shoulder pads. There's still some limits to what we're allowed to do, but it's much better for the kids than what it used to be. The biggest thing for me in the spring, and I've said this to high school coaches when they come to camps, is you can't win a championship in the spring, but you can lose one.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing you want to do with spring, your number one goal in spring, is that you're coming out of it healthy. You want to teach, and in our situation with where we're at with the new program, we want to instill the how we do things. The how we do things is much more important than what we do.
Right.
So we need to get guys to understand the urgency at which we practice, the urgency with which we play, how we move from drill to drill, how we operate a practice, and get out of it with good work in that regards. I mean, the schematic stuff, we can all learn plays. Again, we mentioned that earlier. Power hasn't changed. It's going to be a new word for our guys, but it hasn't changed how things are run.
That's really good. Okay, let's talk about you. What aspects or what part of football coaching gets you most excited? Huh?
I will say there's two parts of it that I love. One, I love the relationships with the players. I think that's why we do it, or it should be why we do it as coaches, is to invest in the lives of the young men that we surround ourselves with. So that's always going to be my favorite piece of it, is getting to know those guys. From a coaching standpoint, I'm a big believer that when it gets to Saturday, the play calls that I make, the play calls that our defense coordinator makes, it's the players that win the ball games on Saturday. So my favorite day of the week has always been Mondays when we start game planning, because I believe that is the one time a week that we truly as coaches have a chance to dictate the score.
Okay.
Right? We can walk out of our meetings on Monday afternoon and say, hey, we feel good about this. We feel good about that. Now let's go implement it with the players and give something to them to go compete with and win with on Saturdays. I've told people for a long time, during games, a good play call or a bad play call, the only people that realize that are the people in the stands. If it works, they thought it was a good play call. Over 20-some years, I've seen a lot of really good play calls that don't work, and I've seen some bad play calls that were touchdowns. So the one constant is your players. So how do we prepare them throughout the course of the week? Are we giving them the tools? Are we game planning in a way that allows them to be successful? So those game planning days, to me as coaches, that's when we compete.
Right. That's good. That's really good, Coach. Like I told you, you got me fired up, and I'm just sitting here. Anyway, okay, let's go. What? Not just a position, but what do you think would be 2 or 3, 4 qualities that makes a good college football player?
Number one is dedication. You have to be dedicated to being different. They give a stat that only 7% of high school seniors are going to graduate and play 4 years of college. So that means to be a good college football player, you have to be willing to be different. You got to be willing to do things that other people aren't. So that drive to be something that other people aren't willing to be is number one for me. How much do they love football? Do they like playing the game, or do they love football? If you love football, you love every piece of it. And then obviously you start talking about what they can do on the field and the, how well they run and how well they do those things. Are they physical? Are they competitor? To be honest with you, the hardest part of it is, I think everything I just said, very few of it shows up on film.
Yeah.
What you need to find out, and one of the biggest things that I think bothers me in the recruiting world right now is I think that it's getting away from having conversations with high school coaches.
Oh, for sure.
Recruiting starts with the high school coach, because that's who tells you really what a kid's all about.
Right.
Right. Talent's easy to find out. You don't have to be an expert in coaching to find out if a player can throw the ball or catch the ball or block. You see that there. To find out how much they love the game and how much they're willing to be different, that only comes with talking to the coaches and finding out who they are.
Right. When I talk to kids or players, recruits, one of the first things I ask them, I'll say, do you love football? Of course, you know what the answer is going to be. I said, no. I said, do you really love it? I said, you can't take a vacation now because you got to practice. You can't, there are certain things. When the coach is having a bad day, he's in your face and all this stuff, do you love it? Do you want to come back the next day? And you can find out initially what they say, if you're listening, if they love football or not, or if they just like it.
Yes.
There's a difference to me. I like it. Yeah, I like it. No. Do you love it? Just like you're saying. Sometimes the biggest, I think, coach, is Division III. Or you'll find out, do guys really love it? Because they're going to say, well, hey, it's Division III. But if you're a good coach, you're gonna put the hammer down. You're gonna require. Now, do those kids really love it, or do they just like it? And I think that's tough on your level.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, there's probably one of the best linebackers that have played at this place. I was fortunate to coach him when I was a GA. It was a kid named Jack Junker, who was from, I want to say he's from Valley Forge High School, if I remember correctly, up in Cleveland. And he never left my office.
Yeah.
And this is back when we still had to watch film on VHS tapes. He didn't leave. He went to class. He came and watched film. He was in the weight room. He loved every part of it. And there's a reason why he was, all OAC and was all those things. It was way more than just the talent level that he played with.
Right.
There wasn't a part of the game that he didn't love.
Yeah.
And like you said, you see that at this level. You can see that, and it's at every level. You'll find guys that truly love the game.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Even the Ohio States of the world, the Bowling Greens, and a lot of guys are just happy to be there. Yep. If the truth were, there are guys that really, really love it. But the sad part is there are guys that just enjoy being there. And that hurts programs sometimes. Last question. It's been a great interview. I've learned a lot about you. I think I'm going to call you if I get down, because I think you're going to fire me up a little bit, Coach. Hell, I'm ready to go out right now and call defenses or run the offense. Okay, last question. What are the strongest qualities? Let's go head coach first. What do you look at as the strongest, say 3 of them, the strongest qualities a head coach at the college level must have?
I think you need to be extreme.
Let's go high school.
You need to be extremely organized, because everything comes through you, and you need to be willing to. You got to be able to set a plan for the entire program, not just the team. And I think that is a difference of how you see things. Are you seeing things whole picture? Are you just looking at the small side of things within just year to year? So you got to be extremely well organized. I think you need to be strong enough as a leader to divvy up responsibilities and confident enough to let professionals be professionals.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that is a very, very tough thing. And I also think you have to learn, and this is something that, I had this conversation with Scott Donaldson up at Heidelberg when I got hired at Bluffton, 3.5 years ago.
Good coach, by the way.
Very good coach and very good person. And when we sat down and we were talking, I said, I've been doing this for 17 years, and sitting in this chair, it feels like you're starting over, right? Because things are different. Everything is different. I think one of the things you have to understand when you become a head coach is that you're not an assistant anymore.
Yeah.
It is your job to set a culture.
Yeah.
And your job to demand that the coaches drive that culture within your locker room.
I do. My last question. I appreciate, Matt, you being on here, Coach. It's really, really good. Had a little trouble getting it together. I did, but we got it to work. Okay, best piece of advice that you ever been given about.
Best advice.
Let's go
Wow.
coaching. We're in coaching. Let's go coaching.
Well, I'm going to give you two because when I was when I was in high school, looking at what I wanted to do with my life and what I wanted to do in school, I sat down with my dad and my uncle Marty, who's my godfather, and we sat upstairs and they said, "What do you want to do?" Because everyone was telling me what I should do because I was a smart kid and this, that, and the other, and I said I wanted to coach.
Oh
And they
no!
both sat there and they said, "You find a way to do. If you do something that you love, you'll never feel like you worked a day in your life."
Yeah,
And I will tell you that that's the truth. The next piece I'll say is a piece of advice I was given here by Larry Shank when he was the athletic director. I was finishing up my GA and intern years and looking for my first full-time job, and was looking at a high school position. And he told me, he said, "Matt, we would coach for free. You need to figure out what you're willing to get paid to do.
yeah,
Are you willing to get paid to teach? Or are you willing to get paid to recruit?
yeah,
Because realistically, that's your decision that you need to make. Because the coaching part, when you're on the field, is always going to feel the same."
yeah.
And I've been at high school level, I've been at the college level. I can tell you the truth of the matter is exactly what he said. On the field, Friday nights, Saturday afternoons is the same. The game is the same.
Right.
The difference comes down to what do you want to get paid to do. And I'm fortunate that I'm able to get paid to recruit because that's where, I've found more enjoyment in things than being in the classroom. But that was probably professionally the best advice that I was given.
Thank you very much. That's great advice. Now, you have to promise me one thing. If I go down to Muskingum game, will I be able to go up in the press box and eat the food up there? No.
Well, I'll make sure we get you some good food. I don't know what they have up there now, but I'll make sure
nice.
Coach Haycock's around to make sure he takes care of you.
Okay. Matt, thanks again. I really appreciate this.
No, my pleasure, John. Thank you for all you do for high school players across the state. You've been doing it for a long time, and I don't know if people realize how lucky they are for all the work you've done for them.
Appreciate it.